Welcome, and thank you for standing by. Today's conference, you will be in listen-only mode and for the duration of the call. I'd also like to inform you that the call is being recorded. If you disagree, you may disconnect. It is now my pleasure to turn the call over to Chairman of the Board, Mr. Ed Horwitz. Thank you, sir, and you may begin.
Thank you, Operator, and good morning to everyone. Today we are convening the FirstNet quarterly board meeting. When we met in March virtually, I was hoping that by June we would be able to be meeting in person. And we had originally planned on meeting in Austin, Texas. But instead, today's meeting is being held by webcast, but we will plan to hold a future board meeting in Austin. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us virtually today. Just want to remind people who are on the speaker line to please mute your phones unless it's your turn to speak or Janelle is calling you. And again, thank you everybody for being on today. Of course, top of mind for us is the pandemic that our nation and the world continues to confront, and those frontline workers who face its consequences every day, including the public safety community. As you know, FirstNet has its genesis in the attack on 9/11, and as a New Yorker who lost friends and business acquaintances that day, it is something that you truly never really move on from. So for me, the opportunity to join the FirstNet board gave me a chance to make a difference for public safety. And during my tenure here on the board, we've seen countless emergencies and natural disasters that validate the vision for this network set by public safety, approved by Congress, and implemented by the FirstNet Authority. But there has been nothing as truly national in scope as a coronavirus response. Every community is touched by this. All our stakeholders are touched by this. First responders have been on the front lines. Again, as someone who lives in New York City today, the hardest hit city in the country, I've seen firsthand the dedication of our responders over the last few months. And those of you who may have seen on the press know that at 7 p.m. each day, people are banging pots and yelling out the windows in appreciation for the work that the first responder community is doing on behalf of the city. So as chair of the FirstNet Authority, there was a sense of accomplishment to be able to deliver a nationwide network for public safety at this time, especially with stories from the field about how it is making an impact for the public safety mission. We have seen health workers and first responders at testing centers, field hospitals, and incident command posts use the dedicated and reliable connectivity that FirstNet offers to do their life-saving work. But our work, despite all that has been done, we are still at the early stages of this journey, so our work is not done. We are reminded of this almost every day. There is a constant need to innovate, enhance, and improve FirstNet. We built FirstNet along the lines of a business model and a process for continual successful investments. And our commitment to public safety and the network bring us to the moment today, and it is a big step forward for FirstNet and public safety, and a lot of work has gone into making it a possibility. Going back several years, as we planned for FirstNet and developed the RFP for the network, the board recognized that FirstNet must be an economically independent, sustainable entity, and we had to make sure that this network would serve all states, territories, and communities and would be there for the public safety for all kinds of emergencies. As a result, we worked tirelessly to create a business model that not only made the FirstNet Authority organization and the network financially self-sustaining, but also enabled us to go above and beyond for public safety and invest back into the network to ensure that it continues to evolve to meet their needs. You will also recall the publication last August of the roadmap, which describes 6 domains for investment and established the mechanism for pursuing them. So saying something and doing something are very different. But once again, we have demonstrated over the years we are doing what we said we would do. Over the past year, the board has worked closely with Ed Parkinson, Jeff Bradshaw, Lisa Casillas, and the organization to build an investment process based on sound fiscal policy, checks and balances, robust coordination with the NTIA and the Department of Commerce, and of course, public safety feedback on their critical communications needs. This was our first time doing this, setting up a process that will guide network investments for many years to come, and we have to get it right, and we feel we did. The process, with all of its parts and dependencies coming together, has brought us where we are today, which is the board considering the first set of investments into the National Public Safety Broadband Network. Back in September, the board gave the green light for the FirstNet Authority leadership to pursue the procurement process for 1, expanding the deployable fleet, and 2, initial generational upgrades to the core network that would make it 5G network ready. There was a lot of work and detail that went into this since September, and today the board will take action to finalize 2 new task orders. We look forward to the discussions today and marking a significant achievement for the network. Now, to begin today's program, I'd like to welcome a new board member to the board, Darren Jones. Darren Jones is the new Department of Justice designee to the board, and Darren is the Executive Assistant Director of the FBI's Science and Technology Branch. Darren will also be a member of the board's Network and Technology Committee. So welcome, Darren. I was hoping you might say a few words.
Thank you very much. I just would reiterate how intensely excited I am to be joining the board. Obviously, I live and breathe technology here at the FBI, and I'm a huge supporter and believer in FirstNet. So couldn't be happy to be joining you. I look forward to interaction with the board, hopefully in person in the near future.
Thanks, Darren, and we won't be shy about asking you to participate. And I know you're not shy about pitching in based upon only the short term that you've been on the board and the contributions that you've already made, and we do appreciate it. So for today's agenda, today we're going to hear a Public Safety Advisory Committee update from PSAC Chair Todd Early. We'll have updates from the Advocacy, Network and Technology, and Finance Committee as well. And we'll discuss the 2 investment opportunities for FirstNet for network expansion and enhancements coming out of the Finance Committee. We will then also have a closed session.
Excuse me, Ed.
Yes.
Excuse me, Ed. This is Janelle Smith. There are folks that are from the public and from other organizations who are not able to get into the call. I've been getting a few messages here, so I think we'll have to hold for just a moment to make sure that people are able to get into the call. I'm getting a few messages at this point.
Okay. Why don't we? I'll take you'll let me know when to start again or to continue.
Yes, I'll just hold for one moment, please. Sorry about that.
Janelle, this is Sandy. Do you know, are they getting an error message when they're trying to get in?
It looks like there are a few things happening. Some people are not able to get into the WebEx. We're having April Ward from our comms team reposting information on our website, and we believe that will fix the issue.
wanted to double check.
Sandy and Janelle, this is Jennifer. Sandy, can I confirm with you the participant dial-in number and passcode you have associated with this?
Sure, just let me pull it back up, okay? So just a moment, please. You can go ahead now.
Okay, the number we have for participants is 1-888-982-7296 and a participant code of 316-1488.
No. The participant code, the toll-free number is 1-888-324-9615, and the participant code is 2729923.
Okay, Janelle, this is different than what we had in the Federal Register notice. We'll talk with you, Verizon, as far as why that changed since we had this. And then for the WebEx link, we have the conference ID number is P as in Paul, W as in Whiskey, X as in X-ray, W as in Whiskey, 965-3105.
No, that's different too. It's PWXW1337-345.
And the passcode for the new for the WebEx that you have?
That is 2729923.
Okay, thank you. Janelle, we'll get this posted on the website and figure out what happened, why we ended up with different numbers and codes in real time here. But just give us 1 second. Okay.
Chairman Horowitz? Yes, sir. I would also suggest that they post it on our social media platforms too, instead of just the web, or just the web also. Good idea. Presumably Ryan is online, and we'll do that. Operator, just a quick question. I just want to make sure that when we started the meeting and I had the opening comments, they are and have been recorded, so someone who comes in later.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so thank you.
I've received confirmation from April Ward that the information has been posted on social media. I also have 57 attendees on the WebEx, the people who have emailed me directly based on the Federal Register notice. I provided the information directly back to them.
And this is Sandy again. There are more people coming into the conference right now.
Okay. Can you provide the number, please? Number of people?
You have a total of 47 lines without the speakers.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to check in again with our comms team. April, if you're on the line, you can send me a message. Okay. The comms team is checking the links, and they will be back with me shortly. Okay. I've received a message that we're good to restart.
Okay, thank you, Janelle, and apologize to our participating public audience for this gap in the discussion. As mentioned, anybody who's joined just a moment ago, the first part of my opening remarks has been recorded and can be played back. I'm going to start with today's agenda and just reiterate that today we're going to hear Public Safety Advisory Committee update from PSAC Chair Todd Early. We're going to have committee updates from the Advocacy Committee, Network and Technology, and Finance Committee. And with the Finance Committee, we will then discuss the two investment opportunities for network expansion and enhancements. And then we're going to hold a closed session for board deliberation. And when we return, we will hold our committee and full board votes on the investments. I would also like to ask at this time our board secretary, Janelle Smith, to call the roll for the board and confirm that each committee and the board have a quorum.
Good morning. I'll start with Chairman Horowitz.
Here.
Vice Chairman Rich Stanek.
Here.
Richard Carrizo.
Here.
Welton Chase.
Here.
Neil Cox.
Here.
Brian Crawford.
Here.
Vincent De Laurentiis.
Here.
Billy Hughes.
Here.
Karima Holmes.
I'm here.
Darren Jones.
Here.
Chip Osterthaler.
Here.
Paul Patrick.
Here.
Matt Slinkard.
Here.
David Zolette.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum for the board as well as for all four committees.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Could you please report on any conflicts of interest?
Sure. Prior to participating in the FirstNet Authority combined board and committee meetings today, the board members have reviewed the agenda as well as the conflict of interest guidance provided by the Ethics Law and Program Division of the Department of Commerce Office of General Counsel regarding the conflict of interest standards that apply to the board members. All board members have responded prior to today's meeting that they do not have a conflict and will not need to recuse themselves from participation in any portion of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Each member of the committee has before them the minutes of our March meeting of that's the committee and the board. Were there any additions or corrections to those minutes at this time? Open the floor for that. Hearing none, I will take a motion that we accept these minutes.
Rich Stanek, so moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second by Brian Crawford.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Hearing none, the March meeting minutes are accepted. And Madam Secretary, please make the minutes available to the public following the meeting. At this point, I would like to turn the floor over to Todd Early. Todd, as mentioned earlier, is the PSAC Chairman of the Executive Committee, and really the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Appreciate the opportunity to update you on the recent activities of the Public Safety Advisory Committee this morning. As you know, our focus of the PSAC work continues around the roadmap. Our tribal working group recently conducted a 200-level engagement focused around the coverage and capacity domain of that roadmap. They utilized their monthly telephone conference and really had targeted dialogue on tribal-specific coverage needs, and it was a really good discussion. And lot of great input and information came out of that discussion. I appreciate Danae Wilson's continued leadership of that group. We continue to get very valuable information from the Travel Working Group. And in the months to come, they will also continue to address the roadmap domains and their associated technologies. We've continued our PSAC bi-monthly webinar series. Focused on, the last two have been focused on technologies that fall under the voice communications domain. In March, we discussed imminent peril. And then last month, we discussed the FirstNet push-to-talk with the product team, as well as had an update from the standards team on their progress of the 3GPP work that has been performed. We as the PSAC really appreciate that opportunity to continue to provide direct dialogue to the authority, technical staff, experts, and the leadership. It's really valuable to us to know that the input from public safety is being heard and received, and that we have that avenue to provide that input, so we appreciate that very much. As you know, at the last board meeting, the board approved changes to the charter, and we've been in the process of implementing those changes that were approved by the board at the last meeting. We've invited the National Association of EMS Physicians to join the PSAC membership, and are in the process of onboarding that representative this week. We have also onboarded the additional Public Safety Advisory Committee Executive Committee members. As you know, the board approved to go from 5 members to 7 members. The 3 new members of the Executive Committee are no strangers to FirstNet and the Public Safety Advisory Committee. Those members are Kevin McGinnis from the National Association of State EMS Officials, Frank Manise from Inlets, and Mark Reichman from the International City-County Management Association. Truly appreciate the 3 of them and their willingness to step up and take on additional responsibilities and leadership roles in joining us and the rest of the Executive Committee. A lot of experience there between those 3 members and the other members of the Executive Committee, and really looking forward to the forward-looking progress that the Public Safety Advisory Committee and Executive Committee will be making as addressed in the updated charter and the way forward within the work in 2020. Lastly, we are having a virtual PSAC meeting next week. We have a full agenda that's focused on the reinvestment, also updates from AT&T leadership, and we'll have Derek Orr from PSCR updating us as well. And that is my update, Mr. Chair, subject to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you for your efforts. It goes without saying that it's quite evident all the time and effort that you put into this. And I also wanted to congratulate Kevin, Frank, and Mark for congratulating and also commiserating with them for being now on the executive committee of the PSAC, because that means you really got to work harder. And then lastly, to emphasize that the National Association of EMS Physicians, which is now joining the PSAC, as Todd just mentioned, we've extended a letter of invitation to an individual to become a member of the PSAC. I'd like to open up to the board on the floor if there's any questions of Todd.
Mr. Chair, Rich.
Anyone would like to make? Yes, Rich.
Todd, is the PSAC meeting public? I know you're doing it virtually, and if so, can you give them the date, maybe the time, and how they might be able to access it?
No, sir. It is actually a closed PSAC meeting, and that meeting is next week. Let me get you the exact day and time here. It's June 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board? Comments to Todd? I know that when Dave Buchanan speaks, he's going to talk about the contributions that Danae and the travel group have made and the progress that has occurred within territories. And I want to also reinforce your comment on Danae Wilson's participation and also several members of the board who join you in the tribal working group sessions. So Paul Patrick is one of them, and I think Kevin McGinnis also not from the board, but is also another active participant. At this point, I'd like to invite the chairs of the Advocacy, Network Technology, and Finance Committees to provide an update. So let me start with Chair Stanek, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members, and guests. I'm pleased with process laid out to gather public safety feedback and translate their needs into investment. It's great to see that this feedback loop is working and to be taking these steps today during the board meeting. And I believe, as you all do, that FirstNet must evolve, and the value of this network is that public safety has a voice in how the network advances. No other network has this. And many of our agencies are in a time of technology transition. They're beginning to operationalize LTE and mobile devices, using it to augment and enhance their communication tools. But still, an agency-issued smartphone is not par for the course today. The work that FirstNet Authority does to help agencies operationalize FirstNet today remains critically important. It is a credit to this organization and our public safety partners across the U.S. that we can do both. Plan for future innovation, and 5G is a big leap in innovation for public safety, while at the same time tackling some of the challenges and needs they face today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Rich. Any comments or questions of Rich? Hearing none. Neil, you want to talk about the technology and network committee, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Horowitz. As chair of the Technology Committee, this first step towards 5G takes into account the technology advances that are happening today. We're learning new architectures and technologies on how to deploy 5G, and as commercial providers worldwide begin to transition to 5G, it is strategically important that we ensure that the FirstNet network is keeping pace with these advances, and these advances are happening every day around the world. 5G will have a number of benefits for our public safety users. First of all, our first responders will see improved data rates. Things that used to take minutes to download will now just take fractions of seconds. Improved latency, and this is something that's really key because now we're able to do things, especially in the EMS area, because of no latency in the network. When somebody makes a movement, it's almost like the speed of light can be done. Something can be replicated across the network with no latency. And also with 5G, we get access to new spectrum, which brings more and more capacity to improve the throughput. These 5G features will mean a lot more devices that are yet to come. We've got the whole Internet of Things that are going to happen throughout the world, and things like biometric sensors, motion detectors, cameras, high-speed cameras, not the cameras we see today, but much higher, and many other things that are unimaginable to us today. So the action we are taking today to ensure public safety is able to take advantage of all the potential that 5G has when it's ready for use by public safety. With that, Chairman Horowitz, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Ed Parkinson, I think you wanted to add something here.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Horowitz, and thank you all for being here today. Janelle, if you could please go back to slide 6. I did want to spend a little bit of time with Jeff Bratcher, our CTO, just walking through some of the investment opportunities that we have before us that the board eventually will be voting on. So what we have today here are two core areas. First is expanding our coverage enhancement investment, which is to expand the deployable fleet that we have out there today. Currently, there are 72 FirstNet dedicated assets out in the field, and many of whom have responded to wildfires out west and Midwest, some of the disastrous tornadoes, natural disasters, hurricanes we've seen. These deployables have been used at pre-planned events, at large gatherings of in places like the 4th of July down on the National Mall. And so ensuring that public safety has enough of these assets so that they are able to accomplish the task that they require is an important step that we saw back in 2015 when we were planning for the development of the RFP, and that we see now in the months and years since the network has been up and running. The deployable fleet has been a tremendous asset and one that public safety has come to rely on. Next slide, please. A good example of how this has been provided and how folks have used this is, as we have seen these assets being staged around the country, incidents have required that many of these are drawn into a particular area. And as a result of the steps that the board is going to be taking today, the expansion of this fleet will allow for redundancies to be built in and be able to allow for greater use of these assets in a larger geographic phase. Slide 8 shows a hurricane response example where this takes place. As you can see here, as assets are drawn into a certain area, this is a good example of where Hurricane Michael, FirstNet assets were on the ground there for well over a month, 2 months in some instances. We had other areas out west responding to wildfires where FirstNet deployables were up and running for well over a month. And so by expanding the capacity in terms of the number of assets that we can have, this will allow for public safety to be better prepared to serve all of us in the community to ensure that our lives are better protected. So that's part of one of the areas, one of the reasons why we feel so important, that this investment opportunity is so important. Let me turn it over to Jeff just to talk a little bit more about the network enhancement investment recommendation that we're going to bring forward to the board today.
Great. Thank you, Ed. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you. No, I have to take
okay,
mute.
Great.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure the audio was coming through loud and clear. Next slide, please, Janelle. So as we talked about in previous board meetings, the second investment recommendation is related to network enhancement, specifically enhance the FirstNet core network for 5G network capabilities. As you recall, the legislation that was approved in 2012 that created FirstNet and dedicated the spectrum and funding directed the FirstNet Authority to not only partner with industry to create this nationwide public safety broadband network based on their communication needs, but to also ensure that the technology of the FirstNet network advances and remains competitive with offerings in the commercial wireless sector, while always ensuring, though, that FirstNet public safety subscribers retain priority and preemption capabilities on the FirstNet network for their mission-critical services. One of the foundational pillars that we briefed the board on related to our mission and addressed in our FirstNet Authority roadmap was the evolution of the core network to address foundational needs for the next generation technologies. Again, all the commercial wireless networks that most of the commercial users use today are still based on 4G technology. We're seeing that introduction of 5G now. And with this initial 5G technology upgrade to the FirstNet network, this will build upon our existing investment in creating the FirstNet core network, as also enabling these 5G capabilities on FirstNet nationwide for those public safety FirstNet subscribers and agencies that want to take advantage of the capabilities that 5G technology brings to wireless broadband networks. Next slide, please, Janelle. So again, some of the key highlights for 5G capabilities in this initial step will provide the faster speeds, as Chairman Cox mentioned earlier, the ultra-low latency, some of the massive IoT, and will provide the first responder FirstNet subscribers with much improved throughput. And we'll begin to see more ubiquitous use of high bandwidth technologies such as high definition video, improved location services, and that data access for better situational awareness at the incident scenes. And as we've heard in our roadmap sessions with public safety, first responders expect the network to evolve and progress with technology. They did not want to be stranded on outdated networks and communication capabilities. So we're very pleased that we're bringing this to the board today for your consideration and approval. And as we continue to do since the inception of FirstNet, we're also actively driving within the 3GPP, that third generation partnership project, standards body, the 5G mission critical standards work as well on behalf of public safety and the first responders to ensure their critical communication needs and requirements are evolving within the standards work as well. And with that, that's the update on our network investment.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that, and it's important the entire community understands that the investments that we are bringing, the investment opportunities that the management is bringing forward to the board today is a direct result of the engagement that we have had over the last 12 months with public safety. We've had hundreds of individual meetings, met with thousands of different public safety users across the nation from all 56 states and territories. And the public safety's direct voice, similar to how we used and leveraged public safety's input into the development of the RFP, public safety again will see their direct input back into these investment opportunities that we're bringing forward to the board today. That is unique. We are the only system in the nation that relies on public safety to build public safety's network. And I think that's a strength of the FirstNet system. So with that, Chairman Horowitz, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Ed. And I just want to remind the group again that the development of the roadmap and its publication last August set forth the 6 domains that defined where our investments strategy was going to be based upon, and the first 2 domains, one is for coverage and the second is for core enhancement, is what is being looked at today for that investment decision. The deployables, as was mentioned, are getting tremendous usage for both planned and unplanned events. They are changing the operational tempo on the ground. They are required to show up between the time a call goes in and deployable is authorized. I'm required to show up in 14 hours or less, and they have done so many times over and over again this past year. And so it's logical to extend the capability in the deployable arena. And with respect to 5G, it's really tracking in a fast follower mode the evolution that's taking place in the wireless technology arena. So 4G is obviously firmly in place and tremendous use and is still growing and will continue to grow and will be in use for many years to come. But there's, you see the first pebbles in the pond, if you will, being thrown in. So the first ripples of where 5G is starting to be defined and is gradually going to be added to the capability that 4G offers in order to provide faster speeds, lower latency, and support of a massive IoT environment. So it is, all of this is based on the roadmap. It's based on the guidance that was presented to the board. It's based upon the board's feedback to management on their recommendations, suggesting they go off and get to this point where we find ourselves today, where management is proposing to the board that we specifically obligate funds in these 2 arenas. So unless there are other comments from the floor at this point, which I'll take a pause here to find out if there are other comments, I'd like to then suggest that we get a motion from the board to move the board into a closed session for the next 15 minutes or so, and then we'll come back out. Before we move into closed session, does anyone have anything they'd like to say? Okay, can I please have a motion from someone to move the board into closed session?
This is Neil. I so move it.
Thank you, Neil. May I have a second, please?
Richard, second. Richard.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Say nay. Abstentions? Thank you. So the board will now enter into closed session. I have 40 minutes after the hour, and I'm going to propose that we come back into the public session by 55 minutes after the hour. So at this point, we're going to go into closed session. Thank you.
Operator, if you would please place the call on hold.
You are on hold for a conference call. Please press *0 and a coordinator will assist you momentarily. You are on hold for a conference call. Please press *0 and a coordinator will assist you momentarily. You will now be placed into conference.
The meeting is now open.
Thank you, operator. I'd just like to take a moment to confirm that all the board members are back on this call, and so I'm asking Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll once again for the board and confirm that each committee has a quorum?
Okay. I'm going to check you as present, Mr. Chairman Horowitz.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Stanek.
Present.
Richard Carrizo.
Present.
Welton Chase.
Present.
Neil Cox.
Present.
Brian Crawford.
Here.
Vincent De Laurentiis.
Here.
Billy Hughes.
Here.
Farima Holmes.
Here.
Aaron Jones.
I'm here.
Pip Osterthaler.
Here.
Paul Patrick.
Present.
Matt Swinkard.
Here.
David Zillett.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum for the board as well as for all 4 committees.
Thank you, Janelle. Before we move on and go through the Finance Committee's resolution number 25 and the board resolution number 105, I wanted to provide a brief report out of the board's closed session. During that session, the board discussed privileged and commercial financial information, including procurement-sensitive information regarding the investment recommendations. And the board also gave direction with respect to the next steps of the FirstNet Authority management as authorized to take with the investment recommendations. So at this point, I'd like to give the floor over to Tip Ostertaylor, Chairman of the Finance Committee, and let him report out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After our initial discussions at the closed session, at this time the Finance Committee would like to recommend that the board approve the material terms of the 2 task orders to the existing National Public Safety Broadband Network contract, and that it further direct management to take all actions necessary to issue task orders to the NPSBN contract to obtain these services consistent with such material terms and to obligate the necessary funds. Before we do any Finance Committee members have any questions or comments regarding the proposed resolution? And the floor is open. Hearing no questions or comments, we're prepared to vote on Finance Committee Resolution 25. Madam Secretary, would you please read the operative language?
Finance Committee Resolution 25, Recommendation on Network Investments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board Finance Committee recommends to the Board that it approve the material terms of 2 task orders to the existing NPSBN contract that would expand FirstNet's deployable capabilities and services and initiate a core generational upgrade, and that it direct management to take all actions necessary to issue task orders to the NPSBN contract to obtain these services consistent with such material terms and to obligate the necessary funds.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Could I ask, please, that everyone who is a speaker on the call, please ensure your phone is muted unless you need to speak. We have some background information, some background noise. Okay, this is for the Finance Committee members only. May I have a motion from a member of the committee, please, to approve Finance Committee Resolution 25?
Tip, this is Paul Patrick. I move to approve.
And is there a second?
Tip, this is Dave Zillett. I'll second.
Thank you both. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, indicate by saying nay. Are there any abstentions? Hearing no abstentions, Madam Secretary, would you please make the resolution available to the public following this meeting, and Resolution 25 is passed. I'll turn the floor back over now to Chairman Horowitz for discussion of Board Resolution 105.
Thank you, Tip, and thank you, members of the Finance Committee. The Board is now prepared to vote on Resolution 105, Network Investments. In this resolution, in accordance with the Board Resolution 100, the Board approves the material terms and directs management to take all actions necessary, including the obligations of funds, to issue task orders to the NPSBN contract for expanded deployables capabilities and services and an initial core generational upgrade. Before we vote, do any board members have any questions about the proposed resolution? Hearing none, we're prepared to vote on Board Resolution 105. Madam Secretary, would you please read the operative language?
Board Resolution 105, Network Investments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in accordance with Resolution 100, the Board hereby approves the material terms and directs management to take all actions necessary, including the obligation of funds, to issue task orders to the NPSBN contract for expanded deployable capabilities and services and an initial core generational upgrade.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to approve Board Resolution 105?
Rizzo motions. Paul Patrick, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed by saying nay? Are there any abstentions? Resolution's passed. Madam Secretary, will you please make the following resolution available to the public following this meeting?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment and note this milestone. It all started with the establishment of the FirstNet Authority, the development of an RFI, which led to the RFP, which then led to a source selection, which then led to selection of a contract, then led to opt-ins, which then led to the establishment of the core and build out of the network. And we find ourselves today in a position whereby, as contemplated originally, based upon the economic terms that were dictated in the original legislation and subsequently that have been emphasized in various resolutions, we find ourselves at the point in which, as I said in my opening remarks, we're making good on the promise that we would make investments back into the NPSBN along the lines as contemplated in the roadmap. It's a pretty awesome moment in time. And I'm only sorry that we're actually not together physically where we couldn't see the smiles on each other's face as we are in this around the boardroom, and the smiles that might be in the audience and the smiles that would be on the faces of the FirstNet organization, who have put countless hours into getting these definitions defined, these roadmaps defined, these projects defined, working with NTIA and Department of Commerce and other groups to make sure that a process is put into place such that this is repeatable. So if there is anything that has come out of the diligence that has taken place and the effort that has taken place, and over and above the monies, where we're going to put the monies, is that the process that has been used to get to this point on all avenues is documented and is repeatable. So as the organization, FirstNet Management, hears back from public safety, determines what the next areas of investment should be, there is now a blueprint as to how to go about getting to this point where the board is going to be asked to look at the next category and then ultimately approve the investments. So all I can say is, as time goes on, future boards should look back at this moment in time and say, boy, that was easy. It's easy to make investments. And the only reason that is because of the efforts that have taken place up to now by management, NTIA, DOC, and this board. And I just want to say thank you very much for all of this. I'd like to turn over to Ed Parkinson if he has any closing remarks, and I open the floor to anybody else after Ed speaks if there's something someone else would like to say.
Thank you, Chairman Horowitz. I appreciate the time, and I'd like to thank, first of all, the FirstNet Authority team for all the hard work and dedication that they've put in to help us get to this vote. There are an incalculable number of people who have dedicated the last year, frankly, of their professional lives to this effort. And, I really do thank the team. It's not just one or two people, that's for sure. And many, many thanks to all of the FirstNet Authority team. A couple of folks I, too, would like to thank at the Department of Commerce for getting us to this point. Tom Gilman, who's the Chief Financial Officer and Assistant Secretary for Administration, he came in and really attached himself to the FirstNet program and has been such a tremendous asset and supporter of the program. Many thanks to Tom Gilman for all his support. And Barry Berkowitz, the Senior Procurement Executive and Director of Acquisition Management. Barry and his team have been tremendous advocates for the FirstNet program, going back to when the program was stood up. And so to see us at this point today, a lot of credit must go to them. And, of course, Deputy Secretary Karen Dunn-Kelly, who's really worked tirelessly in support of the FirstNet program. Finally, in terms of thanks, Doug Kinkoff, Mike Dame, Maggie Mitchell, and the entire NTI team. They really have been tremendous partners in the last 6 or 10 months, really, as we've focused on these investments. And we couldn't be here without all of their support. So as Chairman Horowitz mentioned, we've really built this process to ensure the continued success of the network investments. And it began with identifying those investment principles that the board voted on in a previous board meeting, and then evolved to gather that feedback from public safety through the roadmap. And with this green light from the board on these two investment opportunities, our team has really jumped in to pursue the best plan and to get the best deal for public safety. I'd like to thank the entire board for your work during this time and for the approval to move forward today on these investments and bringing them forward to public safety. We're putting FirstNet on the path to 5G and boosting our fleet of deployables for the FirstNet community. And above all, and most importantly, I want to thank public safety for their support. With the hundreds of engagements with the community that went into helping us prioritize these first investments, from local and state input, from tribal input, from federal input, to all the feedback we've received from the associations, and most importantly from the members of our PSAC under the astute leadership of Todd Early. These are our initial investments, and now we're going to take our tested process and proceed to identify and pursue future investment opportunities. Public safety has and always will continue to be at the center of this process. To public safety and to all of you listening in, please do continue to stay engaged with us to have your voice heard. This is your chance to shape your network. And I think that, again, is the unique part of the FirstNet experience. We will continue to hold roadmap engagements across the country. Dave Buchanan and the Public Safety Advocacy team have been continuing to do so over the last few months as we've been working and living through the pandemic. And it's amazing to see public safety step up as they're out there supporting their communities. They're still answering our request to participate in building and shaping their network. And we've continued to collaborate with our government partners and our network contractor, AT&T, to deliver for public safety. So we're not stopping here. This is a great start. It's an amazing accomplishment to get to this point, and we certainly look forward to the work ahead. So thank you again to the board, to the Department of Commerce for your support and this significant achievement. And we look forward to kicking off these task orders with AT&T and ensuring that they are delivered to public safety. And we will continue to hold AT&T's feet to the fire to ensure that they provide tremendous service, and public safety can know that the FirstNet Authority is here for them and for them alone. So thank you very much, Chairman. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Ed. Is there any comments that anyone wishes to make from the floor?
Mr. Chair, Rich Stanek.
Yes, Rich.
Mr. Chairman, members, and guests that are joining us, I think back, I've been a board member now for 5, maybe 6 years. This is my 20-plus board meeting, and I was thinking, sitting here over the last hour or so, about how far we've come from, when it was just really getting started, to the RP process, to picking our private sector partner, and all that we've done to get to this point. And then you think about just in the last 4 or 5 months how dramatically things have changed in this country and how FirstNet and AT&T, their partner, stepped up to provide service to public safety, not just police, fire, but EMS as well. And things have changed so dramatically, and your staff, Ed, has really performed admirably. I think about Dave Buchanan and the advocacy team and his folks. Instead of being out in person, making that one-on-one contact, they've had to do it virtually. But they really haven't missed a beat. The board itself, the board is just as engaged today as it was 4 months ago before the pandemic came upon us and prevented us from meeting in person. This is our second board meeting in a row where we've had to do it virtually, but yet the work continues. In fact, in some ways, maybe it's even been enhanced. But I'm really impressed, and I just want to tell you what a pleasure it is to be able to serve on this board, and after 30-plus years in law enforcement as well, to see FirstNet continue to move forward and do exactly what the people who had this idea 15-plus years ago and see it come to fruition is nothing short of amazing. And thank you, Mr. Chair and board members.
Thank you, Sheriff Stanek. Any other folks? Ed Parkinson often says it takes a village. I think it takes a larger municipality than just a village to get all of this done. And get a village or to get a municipality to work together, you need to have people who are good leaders and who are able to develop clear messages that can be communicated over and over again. And in the Horowitz Rule of 7, a message has to be the same message 7 times in order to truly be heard by all of the constituencies. And that has happened. And it has happened up and down the line, happens throughout the organization and the adjacencies from the public safety community into FirstNet and FirstNet out into the public safety community. So, what can I say? We've come and together today, and we have passed milestone resolutions. I appreciate everybody's participation. One thing about this pandemic environment is that pretty well find everybody at home and in front of a screen. And so when you make a call or set an appointment, they're there to receive it. And that's the only good thing that has come out of this that I can see. Anyway, at this point, I'd like us to be prepared to adjourn the meeting. Unless there are other people who have anything to say, I'd like to adjourn the meeting and can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Brian Crawford.
Thanks, Brian. A second, please.
I'll second this, Karima.
Thanks, Karima. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against say nay. Abstentions. Thank you to everyone who's participated in the board and the committee meetings, and to the audience who joined us over the phone and WebEx today. And apologize for the technical glitch we had at the beginning, but I think you can hear the whole meeting with the pauses and all. Next meeting is a telephonic meeting in August, which we will be reviewing the budget. And then in September, late September, our hope is to be able to have an in-person meeting. That's subject to the rules of the road, and that will be clearly articulated by the FirstNet administration and management. So with that, the meeting is now closed. Thank you so much.